Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about All of Us Are Dead episode 3. Full spoilers for the episode. This one slowed things down a little bit, which is not a complaint. It is just that, we naturally had a lot of action-packed stuff in episode 2. This one slowed down and gave us a bit more of a quieter character study, and created like a villain maybe unlike I've seen in a while in a TV show. The main group in the school spend most of the episode in the room that we ended last episode on, with them all get in there. In fact, I almost forgot to mention that Chung San's alive. He did grab onto the fire hose. And sure enough, like I suggested, Soo-hyuk's out there and they end up interacting and he jumps onto the fire hose as well to help him get away from a zombie, and they're kind of awkwardly hugging at the end of it, and it's kind of funny and charming and whatever. But it's a fun opening, and they end up in this editing recording room, and there's a zombie that comes at the window when they're trying to check the internet to see if the town's all in chaos, if this is spreading beyond the school. And the zombie comes in via the fire hose, and some of the characters are trying to beat it away. I think at first it's Chung San, and then Soo-hyuk goes up and tries to hit it with a broom, and he snaps it and he stabs it. It doesn't quite kill it. And eventually it's Chung San's friend, who unfortunately I'm going to call him Wealthy because I don't remember his actual name, and it's kind of a name that he was given this episode, even though I do realize it's a derogatory term in the context of how it's used. It's just an easy name to use for him, to be honest. But he smashes the computer into the zombie to get rid of it, and the plot of the episode really is that the rich girl, the one in the pink, she is convinced, and she's been mean to him throughout. She calls him Wealthy, as I kind of alluded to there. She is convinced that he is infected because he has a nosebleed. But we see during the struggle that he actually gets hit in the face by the broom, and it's not a big deal. He just got hit. And that's what he says. And everyone's a little skeptical, maybe he could be bit, but some time passes. But he ultimately agrees to the suggestion that he go into the recording booth and stay in there on his own. And they only want 10 minutes, but he's like, no, I'll stay in there for an hour. Just to prove. And the other character's like, nah, like, it takes like 5 minutes to turn, like 10 minutes is more than enough to just prove that you're good. But he's being stubborn, he feels picked on, he gets really upset when he's called Wealthy, and some time passes, and eventually, like, Chung San tries to convince him to come out. The teacher goes in, Miss Park, to go and convince him to get out. And then ultimately they all turn to the rich girl and say, like, you're the one who needs to apologize for this. You're the one who, beyond reasonable doubt, was convinced that he was infected, and you have to make this right. There's a moment earlier in the episode where she's seen looking at the broom that was used. It was snapped and used to stab the zombie. And on its own, like, it didn't really mean much all in, what is she noticing? There's something here she's seeing. And she goes into the sound booth, and she kind of makes nice a little bit, but basically asks to see his hand, and pulls out a handkerchief and starts, like, dabbing the scratch that he has on his hand, because that was kind of the other bit of evidence, is he got scratched. And we actually know a scratch doesn't actually turn you, because Onjo got scratched by the very first zombie, right? The girl in the nurse's office, like that was episode 1. So unless it just takes a long ass time to turn you, like the scratch seems safe in this world, this zombie mythology. It's just the bite that's the problem. Or, as we were finding out here, the mixing of the zombie's blood with yours. Because you see a little bit of blood on the handkerchief, and you just get what she's doing. You get that she is so like she's so determined for them to see her as right, and that she's the one who's been right all along, that she is intentionally infecting him with zombie blood. And then, of course, when he does start to turn, she immediately says, like, see, I was right, look at him. And we get this big emotional scene where he's turning very slowly. It starts intercutting with some of the... It seems we're going to get more of this video, like, diary of the scientist who created the virus. And some of that plays out. He's describing the medical process of someone turning as he's turning. And it's all very emotional. I think what's really important about this from a long-term narrative perspective is that Chung San now is going through what Anjo went through last episode. So now they've both lost their best friend. And, you know, there's a great moment here where she goes up to try and, like, hold him back. Like, you shouldn't stay near him. And, you know, Chung San, like, sort of, like, throws his arm away and says, no, you know, I'm not leaving. And what's really sweet about the whole thing is that the character here, who I'm referring to as Wealthy, unfortunately, he, like, up until his last second in control, he's like, no, stay away from me, I'm leaving. And he tries to make his way to the door to walk out on his own, and he just turns completely, he's just not quite quick enough, and he turns into a zombie. And it's Chung San who has to distract him with whistling Auld Lang Syne, as they've been seen doing with each other before. And he dives out the way, grabs onto the fire hose that's still hanging there, and he goes out into the courtyard. And it's very emotional. Everyone's, like, tearing up. And I was honestly thinking at this point in the episode, like, oh, I wonder when and how somehow they find out. They realize, or it comes out, or maybe Rich Girl has, like, a redemption arc and then wants to confess what she did because she feels bad about it, even though she seems like a complete bitch right now. Like, what, you know, how is it going to come up? It has to. So I was a little surprised almost when it came up almost immediately, but for it to be believable, I suppose it kind of had to be. This idea that the class president girl, who Namra, her name is, she basically obviously saw the actual, you know, putting the blood on the handkerchief, but didn't really understand what she was doing at the time. And it's not until afterwards, where he's turned into a zombie, where she's thought back to it and realized, wait a minute, she did this. So she stands up in front of everyone and says, you did this, you murdered him, you made him turn, describes exactly what she did, and everyone's kind of staring, they're in, like, shock, they're in awe. And this girl, like, the rich girl, it has to really be made clear that she is constantly complaining this episode that everyone's taking his side. She's constantly complaining, oh, you're on his side, you don't like me, like, you just want me to die, you just don't, no one wants me here. She's constantly playing the victim. And she's went out of her way to do this, and she's killed someone. She tries to deny it and say, well, he's still alive, he's running around, and, like, they're all saying, no, you're a murderer. And of course, there's a certain point where Chung San believes it, and he sort of, like, lunges forward, and, like, they have to hold him back, and it's all very emotional. And it's that really sad part is, like, it's one thing for the zombies to come and kill them, but it's another thing when one of the humans has directly or indirectly caused another human's death, like, intentionally had it happen. And it happens actually with another character in this episode, but at least the other character that happens with, we already knew was pretty evil. This character was just kind of bitchy, but now is, like, ascended to, like, this level. And it doesn't sound like she had a lot of friends beforehand, probably because she's like this, or maybe, you know, maybe it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like, what is the result of this? Maybe belittling people who are poorer than her is how she copes with the loneliness that she has in her status. I don't know. And I really liked how this played out. I thought the drama and the emotion of pretty much everything with this plot line, with all the awkwardness of reacting to what she's done, the awkwardness of waiting to see if he's turning, and then there's the nice moments. I think one of the things that sells this really well, as far as, like, you know, and this show has been really good about this so far, of having, like, I guess we call it just setup and payoff, or something that kind of, like, something that enhances the big thing that's going to happen later. And the scene I'm thinking of is when he's sitting in the sound booth before she even goes in to like infect him, and he's completely fine. He's just sitting like doing stuff, and the rest of the characters are all just watching through the window, and they're just kind of like joking about him and having fun. But it's all very nice. It's all very likable. They clearly all, or most of them at least, like him enough. Even if they do tease him a bit, it's all very good spirited and natured, and it just gives you the sense that everyone kind of likes him, except obviously the one girl. And it makes it really effective later on when they're all watching in horror as he dies. It's this perfect counterbalance to it, where it sets up that they all in some way like him. It's not just our main couple of characters. And there's the chubby guy whose name I can't remember. He's been there, these past 2 episodes, and he's been getting a bit more time. I suspect we're all going to be miserable when he dies, harshly, as I expect he will. But his reaction felt quite rough to watch. Obviously, Chung San's reaction was rough to watch. Like, all of these things coming. And the other thing that's neat about it is that, of course, the teacher, who's the adult here, is trying to like control all this chaos and trying to get them to calm down. But she's like, when Namra, the class president girl, when she like makes this accusation, when she outright says it, the teacher comes forward and says, "Are you sure about what you're saying here? Because if you're right, you're saying she killed him." And that's obviously pretty serious. That's beyond anything that they've dealt with so far, is that one of them is directly responsible for the murder of another student. And it's this thing where she's almost ready to like kill herself because Namra says, hey, like if this blood isn't, if this wasn't the zombie blood off the stick, why don't you put it on your own cut on your leg? And her response actually does kind of work, funnily enough. She says, well, no, because that was on him and he turned. So even though we know what she did, technically she's right. If that wasn't her that did that, then it still touched his blood, so therefore she shouldn't do that. But she almost does it just in kind of like a defiant, like, well, then I'll just do it to Lou. She gets so mad, and the teacher steps in and stops her from doing it, and then the rich girl runs out the room, and we get this kind of emotional scene where she's basically just walking out to commit suicide. She's like, I don't need any of you, you don't want me here. And she walks out, and we get this walking down the hallway as the zombies coming for her. And Miss Park, she basically says something, like, make sure you all look out for each other, something to that effect. Don't let anyone die. Like, you're there for each other. Otherwise, what's the point of all this? And mainly because she's going to go and try and save the rich girl, but maybe. But she knows that might lead to her death. It might lead to her not being able to come back. So she's sort of saying this and putting like a bit of faith in them all to like take care of each other. That's what I was trying to say. And so she runs off, and she grabs her right before she's about to get bit, and then they run off, and they have to go a different direction because at this point the zombies have blocked the path back. So yeah, enjoyed the main plot. I thought it was really good. It ends with what sounds and looks like a helicopter arriving outside the building, as they're all just like depressed about everything that's going on. And I suspect that we're so early in this show that the helicopter is either going to like get into some bother and crash before it even gets to land, or maybe they'll try and evacuate a few students, but it'll like crash when it takes off because a zombie interferes or something. Like, I suspect that this helicopter is not long for this world, but I could be wrong. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I think what I really like about this show, the more I've watched of it now that I'm in 3 episodes in, is that it's kind of doing what I think, or at least what I hoped for from The Walking Dead TV show. Is the appeal of that was the idea that, okay, well, we don't have to like squeeze it all into 2 hours or even a 3-hour movie. We're going to be able to take time, and we're going to go into the nitty gritty of surviving a zombie apocalypse. But the thing with The Walking Dead is that they wanted it to last forever, so it just immediately started killing time. It immediately started spinning its wheels and just finding excuses to do nothing. This show is 12 episodes, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, maybe they'll like come up with some sort of idea for a season 2, but as far as I know, it's billed as a limited series. It's billed as a one and done. So this story is the whole thing. This 12 episodes is the whole thing. So there's no bullshit. There's no we're trying to draw things out. It's just we have all these characters, we have all these story beats, and we're going to do them. And this episode focuses on this particular main story, and that's good stuff. So I appreciate that. But there's other things going on, of course. So I don't even think I mentioned the girl. Well, I mean, now she's the girl with the baby, but like the girl who had the two bags, the two backpacks. So she had like one in her front, and it turned out she was hiding a pregnancy before. And I think I forgot to even mention she was there because she's only had a couple of scenes like walking around, or you know, I didn't really remember her moments. And like I remember her, like every time she popped up again, I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing her, but there was never anything notable that I remembered to want to talk about. She gives birth by herself in a bathroom at the start of this episode, which kind of threw me for a loop. And she was going to leave the baby, but then when she sees some zombie stuff going on, she runs back and gets the baby, seemingly wanting to try and save it, and ends up in the chicken place with Chung, you know, where Chung San's parents are working or about to open, and ends up leaving the baby there, but is already like so this girl's already dead. She's already turned into a zombie, but as she's dying, she actually finds a way to like tie herself to the door to hopefully save the baby, even though the baby's like across the same room as her. Again, this is another example, much like our previous character, where they both try to do something good with their final seconds. Like they try to do something to help others before they died. So you're getting examples of good people who are dying on some level, even though she was going to leave the baby. But I mean, it's a teenage mother. She's kept a secret seemingly from a lot of people. There's a bit of sympathy there with her extreme decisions in that case, and she did run back ultimately. But yeah, this kind of plays out. She runs into Chung San's mother at one point in the episode, who, when she hears about this zombie outbreak thing happening on TV, she gets on her little moped and tries to get to where the school is, but there's like, you know, there's the militaries there, there's riot police, and there's zombies in front of her, and we kind of leave with her on the run without her bike, so we don't know exactly where she is. I mean, you know, obviously I'm assuming we're going to see her again, but it's establishing more characters who are out and about. And I like that, like, the main story is the school. That is definitely our main story with our main characters, but I do like that it's no, the entire city's getting effed here. You know, there's a little bit more at the start with the scientist with the police officer. The police officer gets called out of the room and told that they're all getting informed about this big, you know, crisis that's going on. Same things happens with the responders, with Anjo's dad, who's answering a call about the zombie at a boardroom meeting thing. And they've got him tied up, and he ends up trapped there with them, and one of his colleagues gets bit and he turns into a zombie. So he's with them, and there's a really nice touch. There's not much to this beyond just he's stuck with someone important. Like, there's this woman here who I think's like a politician or something like that. So it sets up this dynamic that's maybe mirroring the kids a little bit, in that there's one character who thinks they're important enough to get special treatment, so maybe that'll, you know, play in, and we'll see some mirror images between the kids and the adults. But what I dug about the ending of this plot is that he's called in with his walkie-talkies and stuff. He's talked about a helicopter coming to pick them up, and the sick and, you know, the vulnerable are the ones getting priority treatment right now. But there's a great moment. So he's sort of done his duty, right? He's done his job. He's called in for help. He's barricaded the door. He's done all the things he's supposed to do as his job. And he takes personal time at the end of the scene to try and find out about the school. He wants to know if his daughter's okay, if Anjo's okay. And he calls in the walkie-talkie, and the sentence, I might be paraphrasing this slightly, but it's something to the effect of, if anyone has a status update on the so-and-so school, can you please give me an update? Over. You know, and then he says it again, and at the end he says, can you please respond? Over. And what I liked about this is that the third time he does it, he hasn't asked the question anymore. He doesn't say, if you've got an update on the school, like he did the first two times. He just says, could you please respond? Over. I love how it changed, because the first two times it's, can I get an update at the school, please respond. And then the third time it's just, when there's no answer and that scares him now, after 2 attempts, he just says, could you please respond? And that's where we basically leave him. I thought that was a really nice touch of, like, he's realizing that maybe the people back at HQ, wherever he's calling into, they might not be there anymore, or they're so busy that they can't help. That's a really cool little tidbit, just to kind of set up again, these characters all realizing that this town is completely changing. So I'll be very curious to see, like, how they like handle this. Like, does the town get completely quarantined, and like some people get out, but ultimately it doesn't spread to the rest of the country, so they just end up nuking the town or something? I don't know. But I continue having fun with this. I guess the other thing I didn't mention was the bully in the white shirt in the kitchen, who has one scene where he gets, I don't know if he's his friend, but he gets another student killed, and then there's a dinner lady who tries to help him and, like, say, hey, come hide under here, and he pulls her out and throws her at a zombie so that he can try and get away. And so yeah, he's just an evil piece of shit, and I can't wait to see him get bit and mauled and possibly ripped apart by zombies. That will be the most fun, most delightful. But really good job with the main group of characters, the main kids, because I feel like over the last couple of episodes where we're getting to know some of them, like I say, Rich Girl and Namra, the class president, Chubby Guy. I may not know all of their names yet, and to be fair, I'm bad with names anyway, but it's especially tough when it's all in a different language. But more and more the characters are starting to stick out as being characters, as like having a personality, and me having expectations for how they're going to interact with each other. So that's really good stuff. And the other thing, because this is the thing, a lot of the other plot lines this episode only had one scene, and then the other one was the archer. Well, they're not all archers, but the two archers and the two that were in the toilet anyway, just kind of, what do we do? We're going to try to leave and go somewhere else. That was basically it. But again, a bit more personality. The boy archer is not a senior like the rest of them, so when he says something kind of rude, they all give him shit for it, even his fellow archer. It's doing a little bit of character stuff to make them memorable. And it's funny because, like, obviously it's important for me to have things to call them for discussion's sake, because I'm talking about them, I need to reference them. So it's good when I can learn their names, and or at the very least have like a good descriptor, a good title for them. But it doesn't actually matter if you're just a viewer of the show, if you can remember names or not. The important stuff is just if you remember them. Do you remember their personality? As soon as it cuts to that character, do you know who they are? Do you have an expectation for how they're going to sound, how they're going to react? Do you know what their goal is? Do you know what their motivation is? Whatever those, maybe not all of those at one time. I mean, all their motivations are the same right now, basically. Survive the zombies. That's what they're doing. But it's good stuff. So, episode 3. Not as action-packed as the last episode, but we got 12 of these babies. We can't all be firing like a minigun every episode. We have to slow down, and we have to do some character stuff, and I think this did a decent job of it. And much like last episode, there was a few moments where Onjo or Chung-san were concerned about each other, and just showing these little signs that's bleeding through more and more, even if they don't want to admit it, and what that actually means. So yeah, there you go. That's episode 3 of All of Us Are Dead. It's good stuff. I'll be back with episode 4 as soon as I can. Should be before the end of the week if I can absolutely help it. And I actually really want to. I was hoping that I'd had this one done yesterday and then done another one today. But I'm really big. I got a pilot today, I got a pilot tomorrow, I still got Superman and Lois to do from this week. I got movies to watch, I need to go to the theatre tomorrow. It's a very busy few days for watching and reviewing stuff, so bear with me. I'm going to get to it as soon as I possibly can. But that is All of Us Are Dead episode 3. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. You can, of course, get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And if you want to support everything we do, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month. But otherwise, that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?